Black boy interrupts judge in court and says 2 words. The judge turns pale. Malik, a quiet 14-year-old black boy, always sat in the back row of Mr. Carter's classroom. Each morning, he slipped in with his head down, trying to avoid attention. Mr. Carter worried about him. He had noticed faint bruises on Malik's arms, barely visible under his long sleeves. Whenever he asked about them, Malik shrugged with a tired, evasive response. Something wasn't right. Malik lived with foster parents Gerald and Evelyn, who were admired in the small town of Riverbend. Gerald was on the city council, and Evelyn ran charity events. They were hailed as model citizens, always praised in church for opening their home to a boy in need. But Mr. Carter couldn't shake the feeling that their perfection was a facade. Malik's sadness ran too deep, and no cheerful words from his foster parents could disguise it. One afternoon, Mr. Carter asked Malik to stay after class. "Malik," he said gently, "I'm worried about you. Are you safe at home?" For a moment, Malik's eyes filled with tears, but he quickly turned away. "I'm fine," he muttered, edging toward the door. Mr. Carter's concern deepened. He had heard those words before from kids hiding painful secrets. The next day, Malik came to school with fresh bruises near his wrists. When Mr. Carter gently touched his arm to check if he was okay, Malik flinched. That was the tipping point. After school, Mr. Carter called Child Protective Services, CPS. A caseworker visited Gerald and Evelyn's home the following day, but the couple presented themselves as loving, concerned foster parents. They blamed Malik's bruises on clumsiness and said he had always been accident-prone. Malik sat silently during the visit, staring at the carpet. The investigator left unconvinced, but without enough evidence to take action. Malik's few mumbled words, "I just fell," sealed the matter, for now. But Mr. Carter refused to give up. He documented every bruise and every whispered concern from Malik's classmates, who had seen Gerald scolding him harshly in front of the school. Meanwhile, life at home worsened. Gerald and Evelyn became more aggressive, punishing Malik for being ungrateful. Sometimes they locked him in his room without dinner. Malik endured the abuse silently, convinced no one would believe him over such respected figures. One day Malik arrived at school limping, his eyes red from crying. Mr. Carter couldn't stand by any longer. He marched to the principal's office, demanding they involve the authorities again. This time, armed with Mr. Carter's notes and statements from 2 classmates, a new caseworker reopened the investigation. Gerald and Evelyn were livid. They accused Mr. Carter of overstepping and threatened to transfer Malik to another school, but the district refused during an active investigation. Things escalated when a neighbor recorded Gerald shouting at Malik, his voice filled with vile insults. The recording, combined with Mr. Carter's files, led to an emergency court hearing. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs on the day of the hearing. Gerald and Evelyn arrived in impeccable outfits, their demeanor oozing righteous indignation. Mr. Carter sat behind Malik, offering quiet support. Malik clutched the wooden bench, feeling small and terrified. Judge Edward Calloway, known for his no-nonsense approach, studied the file in front of him, photos of bruises, teacher logs, and the neighbor's recording. Gerald's lawyer launched into a defense, portraying the couple as strict but loving foster parents trying to guide a troubled boy. Malik's turn to testify came quickly. He slid from the bench, his heart pounding. Gerald's glare pierced him, a silent warning not to speak out. Evelyn's face wore a mask of concern, but Malik knew better. Judge Calloway's voice was calm and steady, a tone meant to reassure Malik. "We're here to help you. Please tell us the truth about your home life." Malik's hands trembled as he gripped the edge of the witness stand. The words were trapped, tangled in a web of fear. His gaze darted to Gerald, whose face was a mask of cold fury, and Evelyn, whose crocodile tears spilled onto her designer blouse. Gerald's lawyer wasted no time. "Malik," he began, his voice sharp and condescending. "Isn't it true you're just clumsy? Didn't you tell the investigator you tripped over a rug? Wouldn't you agree that Gerald and Evelyn have always provided for you?" The questions came fast and relentless, each one calculated to discredit him. Malik's breath hitched, his voice caught in his throat. Mr. Carter clenched his jaw from his seat, his hands gripping the bench so tightly his knuckles turned white. He was about to rise when Judge Calloway intervened, lifting his hand in a commanding gesture. "Enough," the judge said, his tone firm but calm. "Let the boy speak." He turned back to Malik, his expression softening. "Take your time, Malik." "Are you safe at home?" Malik stared at the polished wood of the witness stand, his pulse racing. He glanced at Gerald's menacing eyes, then at Mr. Carter's reassuring face. A voice deep inside him whispered, "You can do this." Malik clenched his fists and took a shaky breath. "It's not safe," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The room went silent. Those two words, "not safe," landed like thunder. Judge Calloway's face paled as he leaned forward. "Malik," he said, his tone more urgent now, "can you explain what you mean by not safe?" Gerald's lawyer barked, "Objection," leading the witness. "Overruled," Judge Calloway snapped, fixing the lawyer with a stern look. He turned back to Malik. "Take your time, son." Tears welled in Malik's eyes. His voice trembled as he spoke. "They hurt me. They say I'm worthless. They said if I told anyone, they'd punish me." Each word felt like a weight lifting off his chest. "I didn't want to lie. I was just scared." The judge's expression hardened. "Thank you, Malik." He turned to Gerald and Evelyn. "Do you have anything to say?" Gerald shot to his feet, his face red with anger. "He's lying," he shouted. "We took him in, fed him, clothed him, and this is how he repays us?" Evelyn burst into tears, playing the victim. "We only disciplined him for his own good," she said, her voice shaking. Judge Calloway's face remained impassive. "Sit down," he commanded. The recording from the neighbor was played next. Gerald's harsh words and Malik's sobbing echoed through the courtroom. The room flinched collectively when the recording ended. Silence filled the space. Judge Calloway's expression shifted from shock to controlled fury. He turned back to Malik. "You're brave for speaking up. This court will not fail you." He then faced Gerald and Evelyn. "The evidence is overwhelming. Child Protective Services will remove Malik from your home immediately. You will face charges for neglect and emotional abuse, with potential for further charges pending investigation." Gerald erupted again, pointing a shaking finger at Mr. Carter. "This is your fault, you meddling teacher!" Evelyn sobbed louder. Court officers moved quickly, escorting them out of the room. Judge Calloway hammered his gavel. "Order!" Malik slid off the stand, tears streaming down his face, but there was relief too. A weight lifted. Mr. Carter placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "It's over," he said softly. "You did it." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing. Mr. Carter shielded Malik as questions flew. "Malik, how do you feel? What did you say that stunned the judge?" Malik stayed silent, too exhausted to respond. Mr. Carter guided him out a side exit to avoid the chaos. In the weeks that followed, Gerald and Evelyn's reputations crumbled. People who had once admired them realized how thoroughly they'd been deceived. Mr. Carter was praised as a hero, but he deflected the credit. Malik found the courage to speak up. That's what matters most. Malik was placed with a new foster family, the Daniels. They specialized in helping kids who had experienced trauma, providing patience, therapy, and stability. A week later, Mr. Carter visited their home. Malik's room was small but bright, painted a calming shade of green. He looked healthy, less haunted. "I just wanted to see how you're settling in," Mr. Carter said, handing him a sketch pad. "For your art." Malik's eyes lit up. Thank you. They sat in the living room, sipping lemonade with the Daniels. Malik shared his plans to join the school art club. He showed Mr. Carter a new drawing, colorful and full of life. I feel safe now, he said quietly. Mr. Carter smiled. You deserve that. And remember, you're the reason things changed. You spoke up. The next time Mr. Carter saw Malik in class, he was sitting near the middle row, more confident. He smiled back when Mr. Carter nodded at him. News of Malik's bravery spread through the school, inspiring other students to share their struggles. The counselor's office welcomed more kids who realized they didn't have to endure pain in silence. One afternoon after class, Malik lingered by Mr. Carter's desk. You never gave up on me, he said softly. Mr. Carter blinked, touched. That's what teachers do. Malik smiled, his voice steady. But you helped me find my voice. Thank you. Mr. Carter swallowed the lump in his throat. You did the hard part, and Malik? Yeah? Mr. Carter grinned. You made a judge go pale, that's something. Malik laughed for the first time in weeks. Yeah, I guess I did. His words, not safe, had shattered the silence and exposed the truth. They had set him free and given him hope for a brighter future.